Hi everybody, this is Tom Wild. I'm Head of Client Solutions at ProWritingAid, and joining us today is business communication expert Gary Woodward. Gary studied English at university. He loved words and language, but didn't quite realize they'd become his profession. He started out in higher education, working with executives and graduates at the prestigious London Business School and London School of Economics, working his way up to Deputy Director of Careers and publishing 2 books along the way. Gary's real passions were writing and coaching, however, and he took the plunge to become a business writing trainer and coach 12 years ago. Since then, he's met people in every industry and helped them to write with maximum impact, from lawyers, attorneys at Linklaters and Freshfields and the like, to accountants at EY, and from customer service teams at organizations such as Barclays, Marks and Spencer's, to scientists in government departments. Nowadays, you can find Gary at gary-woodward.com. He does a lot of copywriting and consulting for clients, product launches, customer emails, proposals, you name it. He enjoys it all. And just occasionally, he still finds time to indulge his true passion, which is table tennis. He's a former county or state champion. So Gary, great to have you with us.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for that great intro, Tom. On that point of table tennis, yeah, is a passion of mine, and a great sport. If you haven't tried it, I'd fully recommend it to anyone. Yeah, it's good to keep your brain intact, and brain's obviously important for writing, isn't it?
Absolutely. We'll take questions related to writing or table tennis later on. And please add questions as you go if you're watching. So you can use the Q&A function for that. And today with Gary, we're talking about kind of writing for customers. We're talking about something that I think when you look at it, some of the techniques are fairly obvious, but yet we see examples of written communication every day that clearly miss the mark. So I'm really looking forward to finding out more this evening. And with that, I'm going to hand over the controls to you. Okay. I'll dive back in throughout with some questions and pick up any questions we've got at the end as well, but over to you. Okay, great, thanks. I'm just going to share my screen and hopefully you can see this, this presentation if I just get that going for you. So what I want to do really tonight or this afternoon, wherever you are in the world, is just to share 4 key ideas about writing for customers. Now, there are many more techniques and ideas, you know, if we wanted to cover this topic comprehensively, but I just wanted to give you 4 key ideas from my experience, which I think can make a big difference. And as Tom was saying, they're deceptively simple, but some of them are against our own nature. And this is why they're difficult, because we get into some very natural human habits, which don't always serve us for writing that resonates, especially if you're trying to persuade or engage. So the 4 ideas I just want to go through relatively quickly are understanding the role of ego and emotion, getting your messages right, trying to get your readers on a water slide, and I'll explain what I mean by that when the time comes, and then trying to win over your readers by being positive and natural. There's a bit to unpick in each one. So this is kind of relatively high level, but what I'm hoping is that as we go through, if there's an area that particularly interests you or you'd like me to unpick a bit more, we can try to do that in the questions afterwards. So I'll talk for maybe about 20 minutes or something like that. Let's see how we go. So before we get into the first point about ego and emotion, I just want to, hopefully I can get this working. That was the reason. So let's see. There we go. All these silly animations. Right. Okay. So early on in my career, I'll admit I made some horrendous mistakes when I was presenting to people, writing, because I didn't really do this first step, which is common for all, I would say, persuasive writing or any writing where you need to engage. You may not do this so much with writing fiction, for example, but you may have to do it a lot more in other kinds of writing, maybe if you have to pitch a book idea. Now, what I'm talking about here is the first step in all of this is firstly to work out, well, really to try to put yourself in the world of who you're writing to, and to do that properly. So I've just jotted down some ideas on the left here
I'm guessing you're from different countries, mainly Europe and North America, maybe younger than me, I don't know. Some aspiring and published authors. Also, you may be business professionals here, customer service professionals on the line, maybe some students. And so you may be interested in, if you're a creative writer, expanding your range of techniques, or if you're a business role, maybe writing to customers even better than you do at the moment, or maybe you just want to feel more confident about writing to your boss or colleague. Now, what I'm trying to do here is force myself to think about you and to think about who you are, what's important to you, maybe what problems you have, and what's interesting to you. Now, for me, I don't know about you, but for me, that doesn't come natural. For me, I'm kind of absorbed in my own world. And so, one of the great disciplines, I think, in this kind of writing is to find a structured way of taking yourself out of your own world and trying to find a way of bridging the gap between your readers. Imagine your readers are on the other side of a bridge. And in this kind of writing, you're trying to get them to come over the bridge towards you. But we need to understand them first. And that's a fundamental, really, before we go on to the specifics. This also applies to presentations. I mean, I could tell you horrible stories. I mean, I made this presentation once years and years ago, and it was just completely the wrong level. And you just knew within a second. I just hadn't done this basic research before I started. So please don't make that mistake, because I felt horrendous for about a year. It's a long time. So, okay, let's go on to the specifics then. So number one is ego and emotion. In other words, get over yourself. And again, as I was saying, this is quite hard to do. So we have to find a structured way of doing it. Now, I want to illustrate this. Now, you all know, and you'll all be got skills in making things clear. I'm sure you have. And clarity obviously is vital, but there are many situations where clarity is not enough. You need something more than clarity to really engage and persuade and inspire, depending on what you're writing. So I just want to give you a very, very simple example. So now, imagine, I don't know, let's say you're a student applying for a job, and you've got down to the last stage of this tough selection process, and you receive this email, perfectly good email, perfectly clear, nothing wrong with the language. But just to notice there how it starts in particular, and look at the focus. So let me just see if I can annotate this. Let's see if I'll be clever here. You're going to laugh at me, aren't you? So in particular, just here, we are pleased to confirm. There's nothing wrong with that. But one of the key things is for us, can we also think about, as much, if not more than our own emotions, can we think about the reader and their emotions? So in a way, for example, if you put yourself in the world of this person and maybe ask yourself, well, what kind of emotions might they be feeling? Maybe they're, I don't know, happy, proud, satisfied, content, relieved. And so there may be an opportunity to tap into that at the start of the communication. And let's see if we can see this. I might have to just stop that a minute. How does this work? Okay, let me stop. Right, hold on. Here we go. So this is just a contrast. So what you're doing, notice how it's not a massive difference, but what you're doing here, you're starting with the reader and tapping into them and their emotions. And focus is very much on you rather than we. And so it's a very small change in some ways, a bit like Tom was saying, it's quite subtle, but this can really make a difference. Now, gosh, I can probably, nearly every day I receive marketing communications or something persuasive, sales related things, emails, for example. They start LinkedIn posts, they start along the lines of, we are delighted to announce that, I'm happy to say that, and all that. And there's nothing wrong with it. But actually, most readers are not interested how you're feeling. So our job is to tap into them. So think about, can I evoke emotions in the reader rather than that becomes more and more important. Just a very quick story. I was doing some work for a big bank, and they were doing similar things with their mortgage communications. They were writing things out to their customers who'd paid off their mortgages. They were saying things like, "We are pleased to confirm that your mortgage has been redeemed." Again, starting with themselves rather than, you know, "You've paid off your mortgage, a real milestone. Congratulations," these kinds of things. So just to think about that first point about ego and emotions, to think, well, how can I step into the world of the reader? How can I start with them, if possible, in the communication? And can I tap into any of their emotions if it's appropriate? Yeah. Okay, that's step one. Almost, no, not quite. We've got something else, a little story I wanted to share. Now this, let me see if I can get rid of that, that arrow. 1 second. Okay, so I want to give you an example. I received this email a few months ago from a person trying to sell me something, some software. Now I'm going to put it on screen. Hopefully you can read this. Tom, is that okay? Do you think they can read that?
Yeah, that looks good to me, Gary.
Okay. So I just want you to read it, and I'll give you a minute or so, and then to think, based on what we've just been talking about, just try to think about, well, what are some of the problems here? I don't know if anyone's saying anything in chat about that, Tom, but if not, maybe you know you're an experienced sales professional, aren't you? Maybe there's something you notice.
Yeah, it makes me cringe. Actually, I think Judy's just summed it up well in chat. So nothing said about the problems of the company and why the sender is able to help. So yeah, that's my take on this, right? And I send emails. Yeah, exactly. So we've got some more coming through. Too official, and it's me. I think that me sums it up.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. So, like, we can all spot it when we're reading, right? That's the thing. That's the effect it has on us. You can spot it. I can spot it. We can all spot it. But it's actually quite hard to stop doing it as a writer. And it's because I think, you know, we kind of, well, for me anyway, maybe I've got a problem, but for me, I'm, you know, often just go down the wrong track because I'm just absorbed in my own world, you know, and it's very easy to think about a reader superficially. So I think just a couple of key things. Obviously, the subject line needs a bit of work, doesn't it? And try to think, well, can we reflect? Can we talk to the reader with the subject line? Talking about himself and his company, particularly at the start. I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about yourself, but, you know, doing it at the start is a little bit risky because a lot of readers might reach for the delete key. Yeah. And
a lot
then
of people talk about building trust, don't they, Gary? And it seems like try and build trust when you're just kind of almost shouting at someone, you know, talking at someone about how good.
Yeah. Look, I just wanted to show you a couple of examples going in the right direction. Neither of them are perfect. They're just, you know, illustrations of the kind of direction you might go in. They still need quite a bit of work, but I just wanted to show you them. So of what we mean by trying to start with the reader and put the reader first. This one's quite safe, this example, but it's kind of heading in the right direction. Okay, that's one. Okay, we can definitely improve that, but it's on the right. It's going in the right direction. And then there's another one which is a little bit more, you could say, creative, a bit more brave, where you're really trying to paint a picture for the reader and you know, understand their problems. And again, this is maybe taking it to the next stage. again, we can make this better, and it's not perfect, but I just think it's important to illustrate some contrast. Yeah, it's quite brave, that one, but it's kind of high risk, but it's just, again, at least you're thinking about them and their world and what their needs are. Yeah. I think one of the key concepts to hang on to there is this whole thing called empathy. And empathy, you often hear empathy, you know, it's very important for business. You know, McKinsey and the World Trade Organization have talked about the future of work and how important empathy is, you know, as a kind of, you could say, social skill and social emotional skill, but not many people talk about empathy in connection with writing. And I think it's absolutely crucial. Yeah, so there's just a couple of examples to further illustrate the first point. Yeah. Any thoughts, comments on that, Tom? Anything you want to ask me?
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, we've had a few comments. So more emotion in this one.
Yeah.
I think Wes has got a point. You know, it still makes you feel, there is an element here that you kind of feel it's almost like a telemarketer.
Yeah, that's right.
And
yeah.
I guess it comes back to, Gary, something which I know you talk about, which is that understanding your reader. So
yeah, absolutely,
what kind of person they are, and how they're going to react best to the kind of message you want to tell them, and that will always change your kind of tone.
That's right. I mean, these are just different sorts of examples, and I always say there is a risk with this. I mean, one of the key things, and I think that the person made a good point about the telemarketing thing, because one of the key things is a reader, if you're not careful, readers can feel kind of manipulated, can't they? And that's where, you know, authenticity comes in as well, which we'll talk about in a second. I just think we can decide, okay, when we think about our audience, we think about our readers, we might think, okay, these people, this person, maybe they're very serious, maybe they're very, you know, short on time, they don't want any messing around, maybe they just want something very clear, factual. Yeah,
absolutely.
And so that is going to really vary. I'm just showing you there almost like an extreme version, so you can throttle down if, you know, again, according to your reader and their needs and all that. Yeah. So, okay. So look, so the main thing about this one is properly find a way that works for you of kind of, you know, properly empathizing and maybe doing that in a structured way. You know, someone I know, a fellow copywriter, when she's on a project, she will cut out, you know, pictures of the kind of people she's writing to, and, you know, kind of like avatars, not the word, but, you know, sort of what's the word I'm looking for, kind of representations of the kind of people, the audience she's writing to help to remind her not to go too far astray. Okay, so let's say you've done a good job now, you've got inside the world of your audience, you've done a good job on that. Maybe you've thought about the emotions, if that's relevant. It's not always relevant, but it often is. Then we go on to the second point about messages. One of the things I've noticed over the years, and even when I work with professional writers, like for example, copywriters and marketing people, what they will do is their starting point will often be, what messages do we want to get across? That will be their starting point. And it's okay, but what can happen is, if you don't do the first step properly, what we've just talked about, that you'll have really clear messages, but they won't necessarily hit the target. There might be the wrong messages, for example. And so that's an important point of distinction in terms of order. So that's one of the key things. Now, KFC, what do we mean by this? Let me just see if I can write it. This KFC thing, I didn't make this up, but there's a very good copywriter in the UK called Andy Maslin, and he came up with this thing which I've always found very, very helpful. And I'm just going to maybe write it on the screen for you if I can. So let me write it to the side here. Okay, so somewhere up here. Know, feel, and commit to. So this is what KFC stands for. So it's like, before, or to help you identify the messages, is like trying to think, well, what do I want the reader to know, but what do I want them to feel, and what do I want them to commit to? or maybe what do I not want them to feel, or not want them to commit to, or something like that. But in my experience as well, the feel one is often overlooked. You know, even in a technical document, it can be relevant. So this one can really okay, once you've identified what kind of movement you want in the reader, it starts to get a bit easier on what the messages should be to help them get there, to help them make that journey, you could say. And so that's I always find that quite helpful, that KFC thing, if you want them to do or to think or to particularly feel something. Now, this goes back to the telemarketer point about a lot of organizations. What they do is they will kind of like focus on what they want the reader to do. Maybe they want the reader to buy something. Maybe they want the reader, and actually what they're not doing properly is maybe assessing, well, how the reader might be feeling at the moment, and how do I want them to feel? Maybe how might they feel when they receive this communication? So there's all that element as well, which I think if you do that properly, it can be really helpful. I would say like messages, like depends on the length of your document, but let's say an email, you might have one key message. If it's a longer report or a presentation, it might be up to 4 messages. But I would say once you've worked them out, it's, let me see if I can clear this now. Once you've worked them out, it's quite helpful, especially for longer documents, longer communications, to think, well, is there an opportunity here to summarize some of those key points early? Now, I don't know about you, but when I was at school and university, I was often trained to kind of summarize at the end. But obviously for many people in business, when they're reading, many customers or colleagues or whatever, they don't even have time for that. They may have even stopped reading before they get there. And so I guess one way of thinking about this, if you were to watch the news at night, the evening news, you know, they don't start by going straight into the first story, do they? They go into usually give you the summary of those key things before the details. So this is one of the things to hold on to, especially for longer documents, whether it's a newsletter, a proposal, a report, a long email, anything like that. Yeah.
Gary, on that,
Yeah.
I think that's really an interesting point, and we see it a lot with, and I was the same coming through university, that what you're in academia is so different to
that's right.
business context, where and again, it comes down to the reader, right? Understanding how time they are. Unlike a university professor, they're not paid to read what you've sent them.
That's true. That's true.
And yeah, I think that's and again, that is breaking that habit and really looking at things from a different perspective. Yeah.
And even, you know, those of you writing book proposals, you know, to a little synopsis or a little summary of your ideas. I mean, the same principle is, you know, maybe, okay, if you had someone in front of you, what would you say to them about this topic more than anything else? Or sometimes I get people to like do a 30-second summary, like orally, of what they're trying to say. If they can't sum up in 30 words or 30 seconds, then it, you know, it needs a bit of refinement, I think. Yeah. And look, this doesn't mean getting rid of detail, by the way. It just means, can you summarize before going into the detail? Details can be very important.
Yeah, that's right. And Richard just mentioned a point, you know, in business, you wouldn't submit a report without an executive summary. And that's absolutely right. And in fact, I know we've worked on projects together, about Gary, in the past, where, you know, that executive summary has the same structure, if you like. So you're presenting it in a way where your key messages and the key points are up front.
Yeah, and I think, that is a good point from Richard. I mean, I think an interesting discussion I have with people is you know, you could say what normally happens is this, Tom. Let's just say, like in a proposal or a report, people will write a proposal or report. Maybe they've got a deadline, and then at the end, they've written the whole thing, like the main document. You could say the body of the document, and then what they'll do is they'll summarize. They'll write the summary at the end. Yeah. Right. They write the executive summary. Now you can do that. That's perfectly fine to do it that way, but I also encourage people to experiment with doing it the other way around. to say, well, hang on, can I work out my key messages here and you know, summarize the whole thing and then expand on that to create the longer document. And what you might find is that the document is more concise, and you're not putting all this stuff in that you thought you needed. Yeah,
that makes perfect. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And then the third point here is, once you've got your key messages with the reader in mind, remember this is messages that hopefully that are going to resonate with the reader. It doesn't mean you're not going to say stuff you need to say, but it's just like, well, how can I say what I want to say in a way that is going to connect? This is part of empathy. That's going to resonate, you could say. And that's the skill, isn't it? And then once you've done that, you think, okay, well, can I reflect any of these in things like my email subject lines, or maybe if I'm using subheadings, can I reflect them in that? Or if you're using, you know, a PowerPoint, you know, can you use them in the titles of your slides? One of the techniques, you know, professional writers use, what they sometimes do when we talk about subheadings here, they'll write something and they'll take away the main text and they'll just see, well, what do the subheadings say by themselves? Do they tell a story by themselves? And if they do, that's pretty good. If they don't, maybe they need a bit more work. So we want them to have some content rather than labels like background, introduction, overview, which obviously, again, in academia, is a different thing, isn't it? A different discipline, different convention.
Yeah, I'm smiling because the number of proposals I see with subheadings that are just one word, like background, intro, whatever, and you just think it's a missed opportunity. You can be drawing your reader in by telling that story.
And actually, what it does as well, Tom, which is going to bring us to our next point, is it really, we want our documents to have good scanning value. And these what you might call descriptive or content-rich subheadings, reader-focused subheadings, are, you know, we want to draw our readers in to the detail. Yeah. Okay. Should we keep moving?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we're on to point 3. So waterslide. What do I mean by this? Well, this is a waterslide now. Obviously, before lockdown and before coronavirus, maybe you were going on holiday or doing these kinds of things, but I haven't been on one of these since I went to Florida many years ago. But you know, the point about what we're trying to get at here is obviously we want to make it easy for our readers, so we want to reduce the cognitive burden on them, so it feels easy and, if possible, enjoyable, like the people smiling there. Now, so momentum is a good word. Pace is a good word, energy is a good word, and once you start on a water slide, hopefully if it's a good one, you can't stop, and that's you know, one of the effects we want with our readers. And you know, oh gosh, there are so many times where it feels, for me, like when I read something, it feels like walking through treacle or porridge or quicksand. So we want the opposite. Now, I'm just going to quickly go at high level now, seven ways you may be able to do that to get a bit of momentum. Now, the first bit of a water slide, I think I'm right, is flat. Yes, is that right, Tom?
Yeah, from what I remember.
Bit of a water slide is flat. Yeah. So we need a push, don't we, at the start to get us going. And so in terms of our writing, that the equivalent of that in our writing is the first sentence. So we don't want to kill the momentum. Now I'm going to here's something I prepared earlier. I'm just going to read something to you, very brief. Here's a few sentences. Call me Ishmael. That's one. Lolita, light of my life, fire of my loins. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. I am an invisible man. Now, you lovers of fiction may or may not recognize those, or some of those, but they are opening sentences of famous novels. We've got, what have we got here? Moby Dick, Lolita, 1984, and The Invisible Man. And one of the things you may have noticed, they're very intriguing, and that's the thing with fiction. We have to go further with fiction. But I think one of the key things with business writing, in terms of the water slide, is to keep your opening sentence short. And all of those I read out, actually, even though they're from fiction, they're very short, aren't they? And so one of the things that will kill momentum is a long opening sentence. So, but what happens as writers, and I'm guilty of it as much as anyone, is that we just start off with writing about a topic. Maybe it's a report or a proposal, and we start off with great enthusiasm, and the first sentence, you know, is like a runaway train. And so again, that's kind of one of those habits we have to watch out for. So in particular, keep your opening sentence short. Shorter paragraphs, yeah, you know, 2 sentences seems very short, 2 or 3 sentences. But what I would say is consider smartphone users, yeah. And I don't know whether I'll be able to show you this. 1 second. Let me just see if I can. I might not be able to. Let's just see if it works. Oh no, I don't think I've got it. But the point I want to make is here. Let me just resume share here. The point I want. Can you see the slides again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The point I want to make here. Let me see if I can draw it instead. This could be horrendous. Sorry. Apologies in advance. Right? As they say, another old cliche. So let's just say you're on your laptop writing an email. Oh God, here it goes. These are supposed to be straight lines, right? You're on your laptop writing an email, right? There's paragraph 1, you know, pretty good, not too long. There's paragraph 2, yeah, oops, straight lines, of course. Okay, you think not too bad, not too bad. And then your email, someone reads it, let's just say this is crikey, this is a smartphone, right? Believe it or not. And then let's say that email is read on a smartphone. All of a sudden, those beautiful paragraphs, well, it's like one big block. So this is why, again, this is, you know, not going to get them on the water slide. So think, you know, 2 or 3 sentences. It seems very short, doesn't it? But again, the energy and pace we need, that's an important part. Okay, I'm going to clear those.
From experience, Gary, I know also how easy it is to get kind of drawn back into habit, and you know, starting off short, but then before you know it, just getting caught up in thinking about your product or what you want to say, and you're back into paragraphs again. Oh yeah, definitely. Go on, Tom. Sorry. No, I was going to say, and Wesley has made a point that the rule of white space is key, and I think that's absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah, and interestingly, I was working with someone not long ago, and very clever guy. What he'd done was he'd set up his Outlook or email program, whatever it was, on his laptop. He'd set up the margins so it appeared as how he would, or someone would receive it on a smartphone. Okay, I like that. So it's quite clever. Of course, copywriters and have known this for a long time, but it's just I think the point about some of this, rightly or wrongly, is that the gap between what you might call traditional business writing and what you might have called things like advertising copywriting, that gap used to be really big. But more and more, as our readers become more and more overwhelmed and under pressure, that gap is getting smaller. So we need to start using some of these techniques, but in an intelligent way, so it doesn't feel like spam or market over, sensationalism or anything like that. So that's down to you to use them intelligently. So simple natural language like a voice, yes. I don't think I need to really explain that, but one little test to ask yourself is, would I use this word at home? Or hi, what time will dinner be initiated? So just to ask yourself, would I use this word at home? What time does the match commence? So keep it natural. Keep it human. Yeah. Yeah. Cut out waffle. This is about efficiency. And again, even creative writers, this is important. I think there's lots of famous quotes from creative writers about that. I think Mark Twain has come out with a good one on that score. Verbs more than noun. I'll explain that one in the next slide because that may not be obvious to all of you. And
I'm just moving these things that way. And shorter sentences as well in general, but in particular, watch out for your opening sentence. Let me just explain verbs more than nouns. So you often see this now. By the way, I've got a lot of experience helping people with their CVs, covering letters, all that kind of stuff. And you see this a lot in LinkedIn profiles. You see this kind of thing a lot in those kind of documents for some reason. I don't know what happens, but it's like, we're sort of taken away by aliens and come back like this. I don't know what happens. But watch out for these ION words in particular, MENT words. Let me see if I can draw those, like anything ION, MENT. Just watch out for those things in particular, because that will, add a lot of clutter and heaviness to the writing. Again, it's not what we want on the water slide. Yeah.
I think it reminds me of that point, Gary, that I think people often mistake verbosity for intellect, and so they think the bigger, the longer the word, the more intelligent they sound. And it's a particular issue with CVs, I notice. And so we fall into that habit again of using the noun form of a word because it's longer and sounds more important. As in fact, as Richard's made a point, it's been conversational. And in conversation and writing, what we latch onto are verbs, right? Verbs are what keeps writing, brings writing to life.
And the reason it's verbs normally as well, because generally speaking, we're using the active voice, and often these nouns are often coupled with passive structures like, consideration should be given to and all that, so that's something else to watch out for. There's I'll point you to something at the end where you can really get more examples of all those 7 points. I just wanted to give you a high level here. Okay, let me clear these drawings. Okay, positive and natural. Few key thoughts here. Again, it's a big topic, but a couple of key things, especially when you're writing for customers, that might affect tone. The first one is something what we call negative framing. Now, I think certainly, I'm guilty of this, and I've heard from other people that they are too. It's like if you're under pressure or a bit stressed at work, it's very easy to fall into what we call negative framing. So something along these lines you might have, if we don't receive the information from this date, we won't be able to, or you won't be able to. It's fine, it's clear, but it's got this negative side to it. I'm wondering, and sometimes it can have a nicer tone, just to think about, well, how could I express this in a more positive way? And this small thing can really make a difference with communications to customers and colleagues, even particularly when you want something. Now, it may be that after the 5th time of asking, you might have to switch to the negative framing, right? But I wouldn't start there.
Yeah, great advice.
Yeah. Okay, one other quick thing, blaming. Sometimes what you can do is take something on yourself to diffuse or to soften. You can do this orally and in writing, by the way. Just that little thing can take some of the sting out of it. Again, part of empathy, yeah. And one other thing.
You must have seen this, Gary. I know you've worked with quite a few kind of customer service teams. And again, I think it's very easy to fall into that habit, isn't it? I think what happens is, and we'll see that in the next slide, a couple of things that happen is this negative framing and this kind of becoming defensive, especially when you're dealing with complaints. If you've done actually, there's no fault from your point of view, and it's difficult to rise above it, and the tone can come through as very defensive. That's one thing that happens a lot. Another thing that happens a lot is the old cliches that we'll see in the next slide, which makes things feel generic and not fresh, I guess. Yeah. So and it is hard, isn't it? If you're in a customer service team, for example, where you're
writing the same thing over and over again.
Responses.
Yeah.
Hard, but
and also some of these people, it's not their fault because maybe they're following templates, or this is how they've been told to write, or so this is not a criticism at them. It's just that every environment has, it's like every environment has a kind of, it's like it seeps into you like via osmosis, doesn't it? Some of these habits, and and it's cultural maybe, or it's organizational. But one thing we know for sure is readers, generally speaking, don't respond that well. So that's what we can hang on to. Okay, being natural and human. So I know getting short of time, just want to leave some time for questions. So the cliches, the tired phrases, things like this you see over and over again in an email. Please don't hesitate to contact us. This kind of stuff, again, which you probably wouldn't talk like that. Now, a couple that happen in bids a lot. This one is a classic in bids. We take a partnership approach. Or another one is we put our clients first. So this one is like to ask yourself, sometimes I call these not statements, particularly that second one, is to ask yourself, well, what would the opposite be? So let's take that second point and ask ourselves, well, what would the opposite be? We ignore you at every stage of the process. You know, it's such an obvious statement that, you know, it's redundant anyway. And again, it's so, even like before coronavirus, I'm talking about now, because now it could have a different sort of resonance and meaning. But, you know, even at the start of emails, when people often used to write, I hope you are well, you know, at the start, nothing wrong with that, especially now what's going on. But it was getting to a stage where, you know, people were seeing that so often at the start of the email, they were kind of just skipping it and going to the next line anyway.
Gary, and I think that's a really interesting point, right? That language and communication constantly changes.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
And you may have, you know, a strategy or tactics at work right now, but you should be constantly reviewing how you engage your customers in writing. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's always moving. And this is also just on point here, just on this last point, it's a good thing to think about voice and tone of voice. You know, let me just quickly talk about we and you. I mean, obviously, if you're talking on writing on behalf of an organization, trying to, instead of Facebook believes, we believe, instead of it is recommended, we recommend, and trying to also, like a couple of you have said already, like a conversation, try to talk to the reader with you or your as well. And sometimes you or your can be implied. So rather than we would be delighted if you would join us at our next webinar, you might just say, join us. Yeah. And again, if it sounds like writing, it's probably not right. So what you said, Tom, there, the last point about always changing, always evolving, that's especially important with things like tone of voice. Sometimes a client will say, well, we want a tone of voice like this, this, and this. And I think one of the key things, you've got to make sure there's a good resonance, isn't it, between how your customers are now, not how they were 5 years ago. So this branding aspect of it, branding and tone of voice, is a whole other thing, which again is constantly shifting, because way our customers and our readers expect us to communicate is always changing. Social media shifted it, and it will continue to change. So that was just something to end. So again, so just to summarize, here are the 4 ideas. Think about ego and emotion, then get your messages right. Think about KFC, try to get them moving, reduce the cognitive burden, get pace and energy, and then think about authenticity and naturalness, and those couple of things about tone as well. We mentioned there's loads more we could talk about, but there are just some key things here. And I just wanted to let you know, you can go to, basically this guide I've written explores this in much more depth and gives you loads of other techniques as well, about 33 or 34 tips. And if you'd like a free copy of that, you can go get it from my website. I'll just do that on the next slide, and then we can see if there are any questions. So here we are. Yeah, that's me when I was able to have a haircut. And so you got my website there. Go to the website and you'll see a pop-up, and that pop-up, you can just get the book there. Just put in your email, and you should get an email from me, or you can email me directly there, or find me on LinkedIn, and that's it. Gosh, that's great.
Where did the time go, Tom?
Yeah, where did it go? Exactly. Really good, Gary. Thank you for that. And I'm just going to have a little shout out quickly, because I think Dick's mentioned that the point about the hidden verb section. That's something that ProWritingAid picks up on, and
great.
So there is a reason here. There is a reason why we're doing this. There are some areas here that ProWritingAid is excellent at spotting in your writing. Yeah,
so, I would endorse that, and I would think, if you think about the future of work, right, and empathy and all that, what we've got to do, that's what I love about things like ProWritingAid. It can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, right? And then there's just this little bit of 5% at the end where you might have to think about, okay, well, that extra little thing about who is this for? Can I start with them? And there's extra little things. But yeah, because we're all going to, like, let's just say lockdown, a lot of people, I've been talking to clients, that are having to write more and more and more because of remote working. So the volume is going up. So if we can find ways of like saving time and ProWritingAid is great for that, then we can focus, we can spend the rest of our time on the thing about making it resonate even more.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So if any listeners have got questions, please post them in the Q&A box. We've got one that's, you mentioned templates earlier on, Gary.
Yeah.
Do you recommend that, the customers you work with, do you recommend they use templates?
What I would say is there are pros and cons. I mean, I've worked a lot with what I would say is if you can set them up so that they're more of a kind of guide, like rather than a straitjacket, is one of the key things. If you can say like, okay, I think where they're really helpful is sometimes people say, I just have no idea what to write in this section. This is particularly the case with reports more than letters. But with say reports, they have no idea what to write in this section. So it's almost like, well, these are the sort of broad areas you can cover, and here are some key ideas, a couple of bullet points, what you might include, rather than you have to have this section every single time. You have to, because then what you start doing is getting a template that is not fit for purpose, and then that causes other problems. Sometimes with customer service letters, you get like, what you get is like standard phrases, like a library of phrases that people try to add in, and again, maybe that can save a bit of time, but again, what you've got to do obviously is think about this particular reader, because otherwise what will happen is there'll be an operational cost to that, because the person will ring up and say, well, this letter, obviously you haven't read my specific issues, this letter feels very generic, what you're doing. And so basically then that's a cost operationally. So they'd have been better off spending the time getting the letter right. So yeah,
that makes sense to me. Okay, so we've got Wesley just asked a question as well. If writing an appeal, would you suggest summarized statement and then expanding it with evidence?
Yeah, and there's a couple of things to say about it. What was the name? Sorry, Tom?
Wesley.
Wesley. Now, it's a good question, Wesley. What I would do, that's a bit of a judgment call. So if there are several reasons, right, like several reasons, and the whole document is quite long, what I would tend to do is kind of group those reasons at the start and then expand each one. But if it's just maybe one key reason or two key reasons, you might just go into the detail of each one at a time. It's going to depend on how many reasons and how long the document is, the extent to which you go. If you imagine going horizontally more than vertically, that's what I was saying earlier about summarizing, and that becomes more important the longer the document. But yeah, I would start with, okay, this is, I'm appealing for these reasons, blah, 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 blah. You've got a strong argument, and then I would go into the detail of each one, because if there are like loads of reasons, you go point one detail, the reader has a lot of difficulty containing it in their minds. So
yeah, that's something I struggle with long paragraphs, long sentences as well. That fact that you get to the end of something, you've got to go back to the beginning to remind yourself of what you were reading. That's right.
Okay,
so we get a couple more here, Gary. This is a very specific one. I'm not sure who it's from. It's an anonymous. Can you recommend an opening line when requesting positive blurbs to put on a book cover? I mean, that's a tricky one, right? I guess it depends how well you know the person you're requesting it from. Do you know them at all? Is there anything you can find out about them that might influence it? It's a tough one.
About, I'm imagining this person's approaching people, they want to add a quote or something, like a blurb for their book, is that right?
I think so, yeah. So,
okay. So let's say networking emails, for example. One of the most successful subject lines for network emails is, referral from X, or I found you through Y. So if there is a kind of referral element to it, and I appreciate there may not be, but if there is, what you might say in the subject line is referral from X, and that I think will probably have quite good results. But try to find anything in common as well with the reader. You might also, if you have to write something very persuasive, very engaging, you might also think about those 6 principles of persuasion by Robert Cialdini. I don't know if you can look them up. I don't know whether I can see them in the chat box, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think the book that they appeared.
It's just called Persuasion or something like that. So I'll just write it in here. I wish I had time, but there's some other things you can maybe tap into depending on what you're writing. But I would think
I don't know if it's my connection or yours, Gary, but I think you may have just frozen.
Can you see me?
Yeah, you're speaking a little bit like a Dalek, but again, that might be my connection.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
So, Gary, let's
Okay.
we haven't got much time, so there's a couple more questions just want to touch on.
Yeah.
Anne has just said, I've got a home-based business with no employees. How should I address the company in emails? Do I use we or I? What's your suggestion?
Well, that's a good question. That, yeah, I've grappled with that one myself, and I would say a few years ago, you know, probably the trend was to say we, to give the impression, you know, you're a big organization and da 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 da. But for me,
I'm not, again, Gary, I think you may have cut out. Let me just check. Okay, Gary, I think we've lost you there temporarily. Don't know if we're going to manage to get you back. I know who we can.
Hi, am I back?
There we go. You're back. Well done.
Okay, right. Sorry about that. But I think for me, authenticity is really important. If you're a trade brand and all that, I would go for I these days. I think.
Okay. I'm not sure if we're going to carry on, Gary. I think we're still losing you. So, but I think the message there was really I, and I think I'd agree with that because it's personal, right?
Authentic.
Yeah, authentic, exactly.
Authentic, yeah.
Last question, if we've got 1 minute, last question. So I've seen copywriters coaches suggest that you include the word pitch in the subject line of an email pitch to publications and editors. It seems practical but strange. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think one of the key things is pitch is
oh, look, you keep getting to the best bits, Gary, and then you cut out. Just if you've got a response, Gary, you just
okay.
Yeah, there we go. In the US
as a term. But be more specific.
Yeah.
Pitch
okay, I think we've got you back now, Gary.
Yeah. To think about, you know, just again, I guess to think about these kind of readers. How many emails are they getting with a subject line pitch? So just try to be a bit more.
Okay, Gary, I think we're going to pause it there just because I think the connection's gone. So let's bring it to an end. We've taken nearly an hour of everyone's time anyway. I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming. It's been great to have you with us once again. I appreciate your time, Gary. Really valuable input. And hey, if people would like more of this, would like to know more specifics, get in touch. We're always keen to do more and dig in deeper into some of these areas. Gary, as he said, could spend hours talking about some of these specifics and giving much more detail and examples of where things have happened to clients in real life. So before you go, or before we go, you've now got a link to where to find Gary's book on his site. Don't forget, so a couple of things we've got coming up on the 15th of July, Rob Mills from Gather Content is joining us. He's got Gather Content is an awesome content operations platform. He's going to talk about creating a content workflow. And then on the 21st, we've got AJ Ogilvy tackling, I think, cold business emails as well. So that'll be an interesting one. We've put the links in there again, so you can find those in chat. And I'd just like to say a final thank you to everybody for attending. We really appreciate your time. Have a great evening, everybody, or afternoon. Okay. Bye for now.